This is the Deseret News National Edition, when your family needs to know more.
Good morning and welcome to the Deseret News National Edition. I'm Dave McCann. Until recently, no society had seen marriage as anything other than a conjugal partnership between a man and a woman. The book, What is Marriage?, identifies and defends the reasons for this historic consensus and shows why redefining civil marriage is contrary to the common good. Originally published in the Harvard Journal of Law and Public Policy, the book was cited twice by Justice Samuel Alito in his dissenting opinion in the Supreme Court case involving the Defense of Marriage Act. Producer Candace Madsen discussed the book's arguments with one of the authors, Ryan Anderson. He's the William E. Simon Fellow at the Heritage Foundation.
Ryan, in your book, you and your colleagues discuss two views of marriage, the conjugal view and the revisionist view. Could you explain the differences?
Sure. The conjugal view is really the view that has informed most of Western history and culture up until just yesterday, it seems. This is the view in which marriage is about uniting a man and a woman comprehensively. It unites a man and woman hearts, minds, and souls and bodies. And that the act that unites a man and woman as husband and wife is the same act that can create new life. And marriage is about uniting that man, that woman as husband and wife to then be mother and father to any children that that act might create. The revisionist view is really one in which marriage is mainly about adult romance. It's about an intense emotional union that any two adults can form regardless of their sexual complementarity, and children are seen as an optional add-on if the couple chooses to have children. And if they don't, it's fine, because the idea is it's more about the adult romance than about the needs of the children.
So in a country that's based on the separation of church and state, isn't the conjugal view actually kind of based on religious beliefs?
It's based on religious belief. It's also based on human anthropology. It's based on sound philosophy. It's based on good social science. I see no conflict here between faith and reason. So it's true that the Judeo-Christian tradition views marriage in this way, but so too did the ancient Greeks and the ancient Romans. So too did Enlightenment philosophers like John Locke and Immanuel Kant. So too did Eastern thinkers like Gandhi. What this suggests to me and my co-authors is that there's something about this understanding of marriage that's a near human universal. And so it doesn't violate religious liberty or the Establishment Clause at all to say that the government needs to be in the marriage business, not because it cares about the romance of consenting adults, but because it wants to make sure that children have a mom and a dad. And marriage is the way that you achieve that.
Okay, but what about couples that are infertile? What does marriage mean to them?
Sure. Not every marriage will produce a child, but every child has a mother and a father. And marriage is the institution that's going to most maximize the likelihood that every child is born into a relationship with a committed mother and father. That's why the state cares about marriage.
There's plenty of examples of heterosexual parents that have failed in the parenting department. So really, what's the harm of a same-sex couple having children?
Sure. What redefining marriage does is it sends the signal that a child need not even have as an ideal a mother and a father. It really eliminates from public policy any institution that exists to say that mothering and fathering are distinct and complementary, and that children deserve both a mom and a dad. Redefining marriage to make it a genderless institution says that men and women are interchangeable, moms and dads are interchangeable as well.
So as society, do we need to set an ideal for parenting?
Yes, I mean, so this is more or less why this state's in the marriage business in the first place. You could have children in lots of different relationships. The state tries to encourage marriage as the ideal relationship, the ideal institution, both for adult committed love, but also for child rearing. It really wants to hold up marriage as the place in which children are conceived and then reared to adulthood.
Many people believe sexual orientation is an innate quality. You don't choose your sexual orientation. And that discriminating, based on sex is akin to discriminating based on race. What's your rebuttal to that?
No great thinker in human history has ever argued that race has anything to do with marriage. You can search Plato and Aristotle, Augustine and Aquinas, Luther and Calvin, Locke and Kant, and they will never discuss race, because race has nothing to do with what marriage is. All of them will discuss the sexual complementarity of male and female, because that goes to the heart of what marriage is. Marriage laws that kept the races apart were wrong, but marriage is about bringing together the two halves of humanity, male and female. So marriage law has to be colorblind, but it can't be genderblind.
Why is same-sex marriage, so much of it has come down to the debate over religious freedom. Can't the two coexist? Why is it a threat to religious freedom?
You know, they could exist in theory, but in practice we see that those who are arguing in favor of redefining marriage are then trying to stamp out any residual resistance, any private individual, any charity, any business that continues to believe that marriage is the union of a man and a woman. They want to see those beliefs eradicated. And so we've seen Catholic charities and evangelical adoption agencies in Massachusetts and Illinois and the District of Columbia have been forced out of the adoption care space because they wouldn't place their children in homes with same-sex couples. They wanted to find homes with married moms and dads. And the government said, that's discrimination and we won't give you an adoption agency license. We've seen photographers and florists and bakers and innkeepers who have no problem serving gay and lesbian customers, but who don't want to be forced into celebrating a same-sex wedding, politely decline to use their artistic talents to celebrate that same-sex wedding and then get sued by the same-sex couple. This is not live and let live. This is not let me be free to do what I want to do. This is I am going to use the force of law to coerce you into celebrating my same-sex relationship. And that's the concern for religious liberty.
As you lay out your arguments, many people may be unmoved because it seems like you aren't giving homosexuals the opportunity for true fulfillment, that you're almost, your society is justifying sacrificing some people's fulfillment at the sake of others. What's your response to that?
Marriage laws take nothing away from anyone. In all 50 states, two people of the same sex can live with each other and love each other. If their house of worship recognizes same-sex marriage, they can have a wedding there. If their business wants to give them marriage benefits, the business can. That's very much a live and let live society. What's at stake with the redefinition of marriage is, will the law redefine what marriage is and then force every community, every religious community, except for the four walls of a church, every business community, into treating the same-sex relationship as if it's a marriage, even when it violates their beliefs about marriage. But defining marriage as the union of a man and a woman so that as many children as possible have a mother and a father in no way infringes upon the liberty of any American to live and to love how they choose to.
Your book came out 2012. What kind of response have you gotten from it?
You know, it quickly became one of the best-selling books on this topic. The article that it came out of, it was an article that we published in the Harvard Journal of Law and Public Policy. That was the most downloaded academic article at the SSRN site for that year. And then Justice Samuel Alito has cited our book twice in his opinion on the Defense of Marriage Act case. So we're pretty happy with it. We wish Justice Alito's opinion would have been a majority opinion, not a dissenting opinion. But we think it's being read by the right people and it's having an impact.
Okay, Ryan Anderson, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Candace Madsen reporting there. Thank you, Candace. Next, social combat and the perils of popularity. Learn why competition for social status increases the bullying risk for kids when the Deseret News National Edition continues.